It is Flow Chaser Monday. I am Lacey Jane. It is August 17th, and I am presenting a theory on accessing flow state. This is a presentation I do every Monday, so let's get into it. And it is the 34th Monday that I've been doing this. So I'll explain kind of what to expect in this presentation, briefly about who I am, why I care about this subject of flow. To understand flow a bit more, I feel like it's good to dive into and dissect kind of what the opposite of flow might feel like, which is burnout, and then talk about chasing flow with a more informed view. All right. A little bit about this. I have nothing to sell. This is actually an experiment that I'm doing in 2026, which is at 6 a.m., a time where I feel naturally energized. And I love a Monday. Un, unashamedly, I don't even know if that's a word. I love a Monday. So that's why we do it. And this is about a 30-minute lecture. I've been really good at like hitting my times lately. So let's go. All right. So I am a business owner. I've been a graphic designer and web designer for service-based businesses for 11 years now. Need to update this slide. Just had my business anniversary this August. And I I have a lot of hobbies. I love to knit. I've recently really gotten into Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I also do hot yoga. I do all these things and I run this business. I'm also somebody who's like really susceptible to just like the vibes around her and even just generates those within, but I don't have like regular energy patterns that I've seen other people have. And I'm so like goal oriented, both in my hobbies and in my professional life. Like I set these like big goals, and some of them just like, I thought like after I did a marathon in 2025, I thought like, oh, now I'm going to feel like really, really fit. And I just didn't get there. But in my in my thoughts, I didn't get there. But I I really think that this like drive for goals has had me into this like burnout pattern, which is what I want to talk about next. All right. So let's dissect what I see as burnout as somebody who's been there, done that, done and dusted, and also who has seen people at various stages from, you know, like just absolutely having no clue that their actions and behaviors, like the kid who leaves college and they get so excited to get like the Google job, and you just know that they're going to crash out like year and a half and like have this like crisis, this like burnout phase, right? And that's because it always starts with a person with high capacity. They are recognized for being able to perform, to collaborate, to like do the thing, to make the thing, and they are compensated or given praise or access to resources because they can do the thing. And why does this lead to burnout? This seems like, you make the thing, you do the thing, you do the work, you get the money, like all good, right? Except for if what we tend to get praised for is either just such a small piece of like who we are as a person. Remember, I am somebody with a lot of hobbies. If you told me I could only do one of the hobbies that I have exclusively for the rest of my life, that would be like instant burnout, straight to jail, right? So we are given praise, and then that we prioritize that in our minds. Like, I'm going to do this marathon and make it mean something because then it's going to mean that I'm fit. And, everybody is like, oh, you could do it. Congratulations. Like, the praise is there. And I'm not really thinking about, like, am I chasing a goal or am I chasing flow? And there is a disconnect between what my soul wants to do and like the requirement of this like goal that I have set. And that disconnect really can lead to burnout. Not because we should all be following our passions and at the detriment of honoring our responsibilities. But when we come to there's a distinction between honoring your responsibilities and forgetting what you are here to do because you think that the only way that you can be praised or compensated or have access to resources is to perform the thing in exclusion of other things or without connection to what you are passionate about. So now we're going to go into the chasing flow portion. This is going to get kind of like into my conceptual knowledge of what I've discovered about flow. I'm going to talk about your brain on flow. A theory I have about like the best formula to get into a state of flow and how I think creativity and adaptability, radical self acceptance and alignment are two of the flow triggers that might not be, or I guess four of the flow triggers that might not be as widely talked about. And these would be like inner flow triggers. And I'll talk about alignment as a flow trigger. If I was to like summarize all of this, it's about alignment and understanding a conceptual knowledge of flow and the opportunity to get into flow. So let's talk about that. I always think about it as like the inside of your comfort zone. There are no questions because everything is known, everything feels safe and comfortable. And there's absolutely no curiosity because everything is taken care of. You have the resources that you need in the moment, the present moment. You are safe and comfortable. You are at the center of your comfort zone. And as we move out from that center of the comfort zone, there become an increasing amount of questions that you don't know the answer to. But towards the center, it might be that you believe that there's a higher probability that the answer is something that is going to keep you comfortable. It is something that you are familiar with, comfortable with. And then you move to the outside where things are less and less sure. Maybe there's more dynamics at play. Like a really good sports game has those rules and conditions and opposition and defense and like a an element of uncertainty because the conditions and the of how things are, which is why a lot of people when they one are performing in a sports game and the fans that are watching, they both experience a high rate of flow because they are putting themselves outside of their towards the outside of their comfort zone where more and more questions are present and less certainty is available. Now that that's where the opportunity for flow really comes in there is the presence of a lot of questions that can be that you are actively engaged with, not artificially because there's like a deadline to do or something I mean, some people definitely work better on a deadline and can drop into the flow state because of a deadline. So maybe I shouldn't exclude that. But you are towards the outside of your comfort zone where less and less is known. So you're asking more question. There's more creativity and adaptability that is needed in these situations. All the way up until when you hit the dysregulation zone, which could be as mild as you are no longer interested in doing the thing. It could be as serious as having like a full blown meltdown. I've been on both of those sides. What about you? But this dysregulation zone is a natural moderation of like, we cannot stay in this flow state all the time. We need to have moments where we are at the center of our comfort zone. But just knowing these mechanics of flow, for me, knowing that, oh, when I am engaged and interested in questioning, and my art background and my work in consulting has really given me a really nice framework. When you are just so curious about how something could be, or the questions around something are really understanding and investigating and exploring, then that is where you feel just in the frickin' flow. Like there's a banter, there's a meshing of ideas, like time just flows away all the way up until as mild as like, I need to go pee. I've been at my desk working on this thing for so long, like engaged in the flow. My body is telling me it's time to stop. And listening to that response, knowing that this flow state is almost available anytime you are asking an engaged question, like your passion is in it and you are moving towards the outside of your comfort zone, all the way up until when something needs to change, the dysregulation zone occurs. And as a response to the environment, to the things that you're doing, to the questions that you're asking, to the level of engagement that I believe your soul has with what you're doing, the excitement that's around, like the energy around you, your body actually produces this neurotransmitter surge full of dopamine, norepinephrine, endorphins, and anandamines. People, this is why the flow state feels so good. You're getting free drugs. And these drugs, I guess when they've like measured it in the lab, and it's really hard to measure this because it comes from like this neurotransmitter, like how do you measure the amount of like connectivity and activity and stuff like that? But they've said that what your body is producing naturally in the flow states, where you're just feeling this response to what you are doing and engaging in, your brain is getting these high levels of like the street drug equivalent would kill people, and your brain is just making it naturally. And because of this cocktail that you are getting because you are engaged in your work, your soul is engaged in your work, and you're asking questions, moving towards the outside of your comfort zone, your prefrontal cortex, which is the executive functioning, but it's also the thing that monitors time and really is connected to like the fear center of our brain, which keeps us safe from memory, that inner critic that wants us to fulfill the societal structure. When you are in a flow state, this loss of inhibition comes from that prefrontal cortex dialing down because you are naturally high on these free drugs that your body is creating. So when people say they're high on life, they're chasing flow, right? So how do you chase flow? I have given this presentation 33 times, and I really said that this was an individual thing. But the more that I've dived into it and conceptualized this, like, oh, you're just leaving the inside of your comfort zone for a period of time, asking questions and really following your passion and engaging your soul in order to feel this time melty, highly pleasurable, engaged, and productive state. And so, how do you chase flow? Yes, it is highly specific to who you are, the individual that you are. And you get out of your comfort zone, you ask a lot of questions, and you make sure that you are engaged. That's my notes from doing this presentation. But before I've come to that hypothesis, I really found that the one of the best formula for getting into the flow state was this channeled intelligence by Daryl Anka through this um, kind of like this alien Bashar. Just fascinating stuff. But if you can suspend any ideas of materialism and why this might be a total crock, listen to what he says the formula is for living the best life, what the woo-woo community says is like high vibration living. And really measure it against what feels right about what I've told you about flow and accessing the flow state and how it's connected more to your passion and your soul than it is to goals and being goal driven. This is Bashar's formula. He says, first act on passion, because that is what engages you. It's kind of like the on switch for getting into the flow state. If you don't like basketball, you're not going to get into the flow state when you watch a basketball game or when you play basketball. The mechanics are really simple in that regard. You can't fake something. You have to figure out what engages your soul in an activity. I've done this with cleaning. I never thought that I could be passionate about cleaning, but I'm passionate about gratitude. And when I'm clean, I feel like that is an act of gratitude for the things that I have, the things that are in my care. And that changed everything. I love to keep things clean now. All right, so act on passion first. Two, act as far until the excitement wanes. I believe this is what Bashar is talking about with this dysregulation zone. It's like there's a natural waning of excitement or something happens that takes you off task. The end of the flow state is not the end of the opportunities to like come back to it. So one of the most important things about chasing flow is that the flow state is just as important as the center of your comfort zone. That is something that we all need to have that access to the flow state and be able to regulate ourselves when we are in it. And then we come to three, act on passion without assumption of outcome. In my Kabbalah study, David Guillaume is a wonderful resource if you want to learn more about Kabbalah. And he has this approach when there's adversity or something happens, ish hits the fan, then the first thing to do is pause and say, what a gift. And the intersection between this act on passion without assumption of outcome. David Guillaume is saying, actually, assume that it's going to be good, which goes into number four. No matter what happens, what manifests, what is created with you acting on your passion, stay in a positive state. Don't assume that anything is not going to plan or perfectly as it should be, even when ish hits the fan. Five, examine your beliefs and release fear. If you have gone on this main character arc, really transcending from believing that life looked a certain way, or you were a certain type of person, or you were only capable of doing something. When you challenge yourself, when you leave your comfort zone, when you chase flow, you are going to encounter opportunities to let go of beliefs that you might have had about who you are, what you can be, your connection to the things that you are doing, and release the fear that things need to turn out a certain way, or that everything as it is isn't absolutely perfect. So we talked about acting on passion instead of chasing goals, but your goals might still be a part of it if they are in response to acting on passion and motivating you to get out of your comfort zone. And then when you're in this flow state, my theory is that creativity and adaptability are natural byproducts of this cocktail that you're getting. And when we chase flow, we are increasing our ability to be creative and adaptive. So, also, when we go back to the mechanics of how a flow state is, so you are in a flow state, you are chasing unknown questions and assumptions that you might have, possibly towards a specific goal, beating the other team, creating a design, all the things, are having a constructive conversation. When you are in the flow state, when you accept challenges, this actually enhances the flow state. It can kick back into it because as you're working a flow state, you find answers and less is unknown. So when you encounter a challenge, the mechanics of a flow state is it actually keeps you in a flow state for longer. Because how do you get into the flow state? You don't know what's going to happen. And then your body responds. And when you accept new challenges, pause, what a gift. We actually increase our ability and our intensity of the flow state all the way until we get to a natural dysregulation where it's important to find the inside of our comfort zone. I've had a hard time connecting why I believe radical self acceptance and alignment is a flow trigger. My theory is now that the more solid your comfort zone is and your ability to feel safe and to not ask questions, that really comes from ability to know that you are worthy of that alignment and self acceptance, where you don't have to constantly challenge yourself or put yourself in situations where you are using your physical energy, your mental capacity to fulfill goals in the search for safety without recognition of what your soul and your passions are calling you towards. So, the underlying ability to leave your comfort zone comes down to, do you believe that whoever you are, your own stew of talents, experience, and challenges is worthy of acceptance and support? With this belief, with the holding this radical self acceptance and understanding what you are passionate about and having access to regulation, being inside of your comfort zone, you will have more access to the flow state, longer periods. So you are living this high on life experience from flow. And that is what Flow Chaser Monday is about, and this is why I talk to you at 6 a.m. on Monday morning. Because as you go into the work, reevaluate this and understand your core beliefs that are going to allow you to drop into these hyper feel good, productive, life enhancing states. Oh my gosh, I have never done this so fast. All right, it's 6:25. So, you actually expand capacity the more you follow your passion. This is what I didn't understand. I still get my cleaning done. I still take care of my children. I still am a partner to my husband. I take care of my grooming, my health, all these different things. And as challenges come up, the more that I've accepted them as flow triggers to re engage with the situation, with life, to the unknown questions that I've had, I now have what I feel is an expanded capacity because of the work that, frankly, I had to do with my comfort zone to repair after burnout. So, this is a noble goal. This is not only a self-serving goal. This is how you're going to have a greater impact in your career, in your families, in your communities, in all the things. Work on expanding your capacity to leave your comfort zone, accept challenges. Thank you. What a gift. Work on understanding that we can't all be chasing this and that we're safe to return to the inside of our comfort zone. We don't always have to be chasing flow, but dang, it feels good. And when you do it, your capacity to do it increases. Oh my gosh, it's 6:27. I feel like I covered everything. We're gonna wrap up. Thank you so much for watching this. I don't even know who watches this. I don't read the analytics. I just go live. I do my presentation. I've gotten so much out of this challenge. I really felt like there were solid moments throughout this where I hit the flow state. So with gratitude. Have a great week. I will see you next Monday.